Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. We're again looking at the different characters around Christmas. Yesterday we talked about Mary and the significance of Mary. Outside of Jesus, probably the most significant person around the Christmas story. Today we're going to look at Matthew. This is a guy that I think we all need to have a lot more respect for. I have lots of respect for Joseph, who would be the stepfather of Jesus. From my research, I have kind of come to the conclusion that most of the kids, especially in the Galilee region around Nazareth, would have gone to school until they were around 10. They would have went to rabbinic school. They would have studied the Torah, or the first 5 books of the law. They would have studied the 613 laws that they find in Torah. And they would have done that until they were age 10. At age 10, the girls would no longer go to school, but they would stay at home and learn how to be a homemaker, how to have a home, how to be a wife, mother, cook, all those kind of things. And the boys would continue to go on and study until they were 12. And they would then look at the prophets as well as the Torah and begin some other things. At 12, the best students would stay and study with the rabbi, but the rest of them would go and learn a trade from their fathers. And when they had learned a trade where they could make a living and where they were old enough to kind of build a room onto the house, or they were able to build their own house, they would marry. And the age is interesting. My research kind of tells me most girls were between 12 and 14. The guys probably more 18 to 22. But my Hebrew professor from Jerusalem, whom I'm studying with now, and who is much more adept and has a lot more studies back in this, said the girls are married as young as 10 and the boys as early as 13, 14. So that gives you an idea about how young Mary and Joseph were. They would enter into an engagement time. They'd have a courtship and an engagement time, but when they got into an engagement time, it's unlike the engagements that we have in America today. I mean, there's a lot of people who have been engaged and have broken off their engagement, changed their mind thinking, that's not what I want to do. And there's really no consequences. That was not the case in Jesus' day. If somebody would have broken an engagement, it would have to be done by divorce. You'd have to get a divorce for it, and it was a huge deal. In the case of unfaithfulness, the law actually stated that if a young lady had been unfaithful to her betrothed, that she could actually be stoned. I don't think they did that a lot, but I think there are records of them publicly humiliating those girls, and it was quite something. Well, Matthew is engaged to Mary, and they've not had relations, and he finds out. And so we're going to read about this in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 1, beginning with verse 18. And Matthew records, "This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. But before they came together, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man and did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly." So Joseph, he was a righteous man. He was a good man. And Mary had become a child, and it was his child, and so he was going to do it quietly. He wasn't going to try and publicly embarrass her. He wasn't going to try and have her stoned. He was just going to put her away quietly. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." And all this took place to fulfill what the prophet had said through what the Lord had said through the prophet. "The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he had no union with her until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. Matthew records Joseph being a righteous man. And like I say, not wanting to put her away privately. But then an angel appears to him and says, Joseph, don't be afraid to take Mary. You've been selected. You're going to raise the Son of God. You're going to raise this child. And Mary wasn't given to him by a man. It was given by the Holy Spirit. And you need to raise him. And he does. He raises him in his home. Teaches him the trade of being a carpenter, or a stonemason probably, if truth be known. What's interesting is just last week, they found, archaeologists have found where they think Joseph and Mary's home were, and the home Jesus would have been raised in Nazareth. It was a cave, because they all lived in caves. On those caves, they either put a little kind of room up on top or a room in the bottom. But they actually found someplace, and I don't know how they can tell, but they think that that's where Jesus was raised. We apparently had a carpenter shop in the home, in the cave part and things, and so they think it may be where Jesus was raised, his home. I don't know if they can prove that or not, but I'm hoping I might be able to get to see that when I go over there in March. And but it's an exciting tale, and one that I think that we need to really understand how young Mary and Joseph were and some of the decisions that had to be made. But the thing I find striking about both Mary and Joseph is how willing they were to do the will of God. That was hard. Mary, to raise the child of God, to be willing to be pregnant, though she was a virgin. Joseph being willing to accept things outside the cultural norm. And I'm amazed at Mary and Joseph, and think that they need a lot of props for what their role in bringing Jesus and raising him and being part of that. I believe they were selected very carefully by God. And in the Christmas story, I think we can gather from them what we need to be doing ourselves. And that is, we need to be obedient to what God has, what task he has for us. Just like he had a task for Mary and Joseph, he has a task for us. So in this Christmas season, let's commit to doing that task. And I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And come tomorrow and we'll talk about the shepherds, and we're going to talk about the wise men and Herod and some innkeeper and different things this week. And so I'll see you tomorrow. Blessings to you.